On record. What's going on, everybody? Derek Dine, Bryce here, defeatthebook.com. Let us help you guys beat the odds. We want to start off by saying thank you guys for tuning in. It's greatly appreciated. This is long awaited. We've been dying to get back, excited to talk about some things with you guys pertaining to sports and obviously a few other things as well. But excited to be here. So we're going to start this show off correctly by talking about this weekend. Tremendous action. Obviously, you know what I'm repping. You know, I got my birds on. It's only right. It's only right. Sorry, Bryce. It's only right. So we got to talk about some Super Bowl reactions. But so I'll start it off by kicking it over to Bryce and letting you give your take on it.
It's gonna be a good game. Eagles and Chiefs. It should be so many narratives with that game. You know, you got the Kelsey Bowl, the Andy Reid revenge game. Reid fired Sirianni. I mean, what more can we talk about? There's just so many narratives leading up to this game. It's going to be a big one. I'm kind of excited that it's here. Monday's come and gone for me because I had a bad Sunday. I did not have either side of the Eagles or the Chiefs yesterday. So I know you're happy, but I was on that bang Niner game pretty heavy yesterday.
Yeah, that was a tough break. I mean, I thought there were a lot of opportunities in both those games for things to go either way. Officiating, I know there was a lot of people were having a lot of disagreements with some of the calls in both of those games. And for the Niners, I just think it was just unlucky. You know, you're down to your third string, quarterback goes out. And when you're playing a team the caliber of the Philadelphia Eagles, you really need things to go your way, especially when you're down to your third string quarterback. But yeah, a lot of that for me, obviously wanted the Eagles to win. I didn't think it would be in that type of fashion. I thought they'd win closer. Honestly, I was telling people I thought it was going to be like a 7 to 10 point victory. I just thought that we're so dynamic, being able to run the ball different ways with many different backs, and you still have to respect AJ Brown. You still have to respect Devontae Smith. You still got to respect Dallas Goedert. That it's good. You can't really pack the box. So if they wanted to run the ball, which is what they did, they just ran it all night. And I think they only had 150. It was less than 160 yards passing the entire game. So, but obviously happy with that game. I got lucky on the under. I thought it was going to go over. I was on the under in that game. And then I took the side of the Chiefs only because I thought well, not only because one of the main reasons I thought there was just too much chatter for a team that is championship caliber like the Kansas City Chiefs. And you just keep hearing about Burrowhead Stadium. And then you got the mayor talking about, you know, Joe Burrow owns Mahomes. It was just a lot of chatter going on for me. And I thought the Chiefs defense did a good job holding them to 20 points. They played pretty much with their hair on fire in that game.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it year in and year out for the past, 3 or 4 seasons. Everybody talks about the Chiefs offense all year long and how explosive they are and dynamic, and they are. But it seems like come playoff time, that defense just bend but don't break. They step up, they make a play here and there when they need to, and here we are yet again with the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. And absolutely, you can't give the Chiefs firepower with chatter when they're hosting the dang game. That's just ignorant. I mean, that's ignorant. So I think they kind of just too many mistakes, too many shots in the foot there for the Bengals. Everybody's going to talk about that last drive that the Chiefs had and everything, but I think where the Bengals lost that game was whenever they had a 3rd and like 6 or 7, and or maybe it was 2nd and 7, and they took 2 long shots down the field. Burrow threw that pick. That was the second to last drive for the Bengals. I think that's whenever they really could have had a chance to, put a clamp on that game, and they didn't do it. So Chiefs defense makes a play here and there, another stop here and there, and then here we are yet again with the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm excited for this matchup. Like you said, a lot of these headlines are going to be great. The Kelsey brothers, their podcast is great. If you haven't checked it out, have you watched it?
Yeah, it's good.
They got some good content. They're very charismatic, very likable guys, very personable guys. So excited to see them. How lucky are the parents here? Split between they're in a win-win situation. They're going to win regardless with both the Kelsey brothers there in the Super Bowl, and going up against Andy Reid always makes me nervous. The offensive guru, so good. I really think that this year feels different. I feel like I've been saying it all year. The year that the Eagles won, it felt different, and this is what it feels like to me. When you have guys that actually like each other in an NFL locker room and want to spend time together, and then you You plug that with a guy like Jalen Hurts, who is okay, which most quarterbacks aren't. He's okay not being the superstar, not making all the big plays. He just wants to win, and he proves that. There were many times in that game where I was thinking, man, if we had Carson Wentz in this game, where Hurts is kind of doing his scrambling thing, and then you just see him like, okay, I'll take a sack. Or you know what I mean? Or okay, I'll take a 1-yard gain, and not just throwing up ducks sometimes, which we were accustomed to having with Carson Wentz. You see the leadership and the thought process of like, okay, their quarterback's down. They're not going to drive the field. The defense is playing out of their mind. Let me take a 1-yard gain and just kick this ball back to him. And if he if we won that game 13-7, I don't think he would have cared as long as we won the game.
Right. Now, well, I think a point in that game that's going unnoticed is I've read a lot of stuff today about how the Niners didn't get any pressure on Hurts, and they didn't per se, but I think their game plan was more to contain him. I think it was to create the illusion of pressure, but yet set the edge. That's what we saw a lot of Bosa doing. He's setting the edge, some spies here and there. I think they did a good job at containing Jalen Hurts and his legs, and I think that's something the Chiefs might want to key into as far as a game plan, because if Hurts gets out of that pocket and starts running, there nothing is stopping that Eagles offense. And as much as that pains me to say, I know you're a diehard. I don't always like the Eagles. Sometimes I can find a way to stomach if I have a side on it, but I don't just wake up in the morning pulling for them. But they are dynamic, and it's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm interested to see how the Chiefs contain Jalen Hurts and his legs, and he is a humble superstar. I'll give him that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that too is with the ability that he has, it makes it tough for us to guard. When you're worrying about containing him and guys are getting out and setting the edge, then we're okay with running the ball up the middle. We'll give it to Kenneth Gainwell. We'll give it to Boston Scott. We'll give it to Miles Sanders if you're going to have a light box. So it's just 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and you just pick your poison. If you think that you can have a light box and stop our run, then go ahead. If you feel like you got to stack the box and stop the run, then go ahead. And we're going to take our shot with Devontae on the outside, and we're going to take our shot on the outside with A.J. Brown. Now, credit to the Niners secondary, who played tremendous. They made some great plays there on the back half. I thought that we would be able to take some shots and get some big plays. That was not a catch, by the way. Obviously, but clearly not a catch. And I thought that was a huge momentum buster, starting the game up like that. But good job. They got up there, they snapped the ball, and they got it in before they could review, which is funny because they talked about expedited review. But then I don't think the entire weekend we saw expedited review in either game.
Yeah, no, I said it in real time, sitting on my couch. I had some family over watching the game, and I said it in real time. I'm like, I don't think he caught that football. And then they just like rushed up, and then they showed it, and everybody thought I was crazy. And then it was after they scored and after the commercial break, they Greg Olsen looked at it at the one angle, and sure enough, I mean, he didn't catch it. Yeah. But Dez caught it, Devontae didn't. Eagles win, Cowboys don't.
Right. So you have to give me that. Eagles fans I know we're rough. I'm not as bad as some of these other guys. Like Philly fans are really rough. Nobody's worse than a Dallas fan. I'll stand by it. I'm drawing the line in the sand. Nothing worse than a Dallas fan. Sorry to all the Dallas fans if you're tuning in. Nothing worse than a Dallas fan.
Especially when they lose.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Talking about headlines and things that are going on with the NFL and things that are going on in social media. There's a bunch of stuff that's been popping up. Two main things that I wanted to bring up in this discussion. One of them being the Damar Hamlin situation, where people were saying like it's a clone and he really wasn't at the game. And it honestly, to me, was like next level disrespectful. Like you're laying in the middle of the field. He basically died on the field. We all watched it. Millions of people watched it. Everybody's praying. And then you get healthy enough to come to the game. And then everyone's saying that, oh, well, he's not, this isn't him. This is somebody else. This, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like crazy disrespectful to me. Like I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I love a good conspiracy.
Me too, but not like that. That was crazy.
No. I think that it was just what the snowball effect was, during the game that they were showing him, but he was in a booth with like a hoodie on. He couldn't see his face and people, and then it just kind of goes from there.
Right.
And even in, leading up, going into the stadium, he had security around him closely. I could see it. But yeah, I mean, come on, guys. I mean, He's
You know
not
how many
dead.
people would have had to have been in on it? Like, you know what I mean? It's
I
like,
know, I know.
so we have two hospitals that are in on it. We have an NFL
Yeah.
team that's in on, like Josh Allen's in on it, Stephon Diggs is on it, and then Miles Sanders is his best friend. He FaceTimes him. Now he's in on it. It's like, I get it. I understand, like, the NFL's a brand. They have to protect their brand. That would be the worst thing that could happen for the NFL, because we know they don't care about players. It's about the money. We all know that, right? But this would be the exclamation point to it. Would put it on the big screen. So I get that, but I just felt, I'm like, come on, this is a clone. Like, a clone was crazy, and then like saying it was a decoy, and it was just nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah, a little wild. Another conspiracy we got floating around here is that the Jaren Jackson NBA stat stuff and we've got going on in Memphis. Man, what are they doing down there? It's getting freaky in the FedEx Forum. What are they doing?
Yeah, and you know what's wild? My brother-in-law and I, shout out to Josh if you're watching, Josh. He's a big Reddit guy. I feel like everyone gets their news different with social media. He's a Reddit guy, really smart guy. And he's like, "Hey, have you seen this?" And I'm like, "Let me take a look at it." And I take a look at it, and I'm like, "Man." And and they bring the headline up, and then someone tags videos. So the video clips, I'm looking at the clips, and I'm like, "Man, he's not getting these rebounds, and he's not getting these blocks that they're crediting him with." So, and it's funny that it just shows the power of the people. If when you put stuff out, shout out to Reddit again with when they did the stock stuff with GameStop, how if we decided as a people that we were going to do one thing and we all could agree on this one, we could manipulate the market, we could run this country, we could, you know what I mean? It's like, this is another one of those things. Whether this is true or false doesn't really matter, in my opinion. Like, obviously people have tickets on it, their future bets on defensive player of the year. Jaren Jackson missed like 17 games. So for him to be leading defensive player of the year is nuts. But his home and away stats are nuts. It's like plus 200% uptick at home that he's getting more blocks and steals and takeaways than he is on the road. So obviously it should draw tremendous red flags. And then the NBA speaks out on it, and they say, of course, they're backed by a second independent party who checks over the stats, but I'm not sure how much I'm buying into that.
Yeah, I mean the trickle effect of this far exceeds just him winning the player of the year or defensive player of the year award. If I was his teammates, those stats that he's getting credited for that may or may not be his, that stuff they could bring up in contract negotiations and stuff like that. Their stats aren't as good because JJ is getting his padded. And you bring up a point where talking about Reddit in the GameStop and the stocks and everything. Whoever discovered that had an angle, and they should have kept their mouth shut. I hate it. They could have raked in the money if they just.
And I think there's two different types of people when it comes to situations like that. One, like yourself, who, like, you're not going to be a guy who wants to be in the limelight. This isn't your thing. This is about, I'm sure those of you who are on Defeat the Book and have seen my face, this may be the first time you've seen Bryce's face. Unless you've seen him when we were with the other guys. This may be the first time you've seen his face. He doesn't like to be on camera. He doesn't want the notoriety. He wants to know that his plays are good. That's cool. That's his thing. So there's people like Bryce who would leverage that situation and make money. And then there's people who want headlines. They want their name. They want to be the one who started the story, who discovered this, and they want to be the one that's getting interviewed to say, "How did you discover this?"
Yeah, no, I see it. I just think, dang, maybe take his unders on the road for a couple weeks and take his overs at home for a couple weeks, make a couple bills, and then break the story, man. Come on, man.
So that's I think that's interesting in itself, whether it's someone who has a future like bet with Jaren Jackson because his odds were nuts, obviously beginning of the year because he didn't play a ton of games, or is this just like same game parlays? Is this just someone who has a ticket and is like, I need 2 more rebounds, I need 1 more, you know what I mean? Like, and he's just trying to run up his same game parlay. Either way, I'm stunned Vegas didn't get the red flag because it's not even close. If you take a look at the home and away splits, it's not.
And it honestly, this isn't the first NBA scandal with stats or betting. I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
I don't need to go down that road, but
yeah,
it's happened before.
Yeah, check out Netflix. I'll just leave it at that. Great doc on there. You watched it? I'm sure you watched it
Yeah, I saw
with
it.
the Doherty. Is that his name? Donahue. I always
Yeah, Donnie.
whatever his name is. I always screw it up. But speaking of basketball, we're going to transition a little segue action going into college basketball. Two of our best sports. Bryce and I both crushed. I know he was up over 60% last year.
Yeah, right at 60%, hovering that mark. Yep.
Yeah, I was hovering around there as well, about 59, 60%, somewhere in that realm. We both had tremendous season. The company started up last year around March, and we had a great run in conference tournament play and March Madness. But coming into that, big games this week, he got crushed on Sunday. I got smashed on Saturday. Alabama just got the doors blown off them by Oklahoma. And if you told me you saw that coming, I would say you're Nostradamus. But
I didn't see it coming. Boomer Sooner, man, they just run the wheels off of them. But
yeah,
it's that's part of the variance in college basketball. You get the Saturday games. You don't know who partied hard the night before and who didn't. We're dealing with 18 and 22-year-old men with all kinds of stuff going through their brains other than the basketball. You know what I mean? So that's why it's hard to handicap. But
right.
don't beat up yourself too hard there, Dimes.
Oh no, yeah, no. You can't. You got to flush it. In this business, you can't hover too much. You're only as good as your last day. On to the next one, whether it's good day or bad day. We're moving on to the next day, trying to improve, trying to get better. But speaking of that, we're going to talk about some of these teams that we think have a chance to win it all. And obviously, I think number one off the bat, a team you got to talk about. I know they took a loss here recently. They've been a little bit shaky, but I'm still, if I had to right now pick a team to win it all, it's hard to go against the Houston Cougars, Bryce.
No, they're my number one team right now. When you look at a team that can make a run, obviously we're kind of cherry picking a team that's been in the top five all season long. But you look at them, and when it comes to March, you want a team with experience. You want a head coach that's been there before, and we've seen Sampson take this team to the Final Four. But more importantly, a box that I like to check not only experience and in the front court and with your head coach is I want to see a team that can play both styles of basketball. Right. Houston can win a slow, grinded out game, and they can also beat you by scoring 100 points. They're going to be a very, very tough outcome March.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. They went deep into and made a run. What was it, Elite Eight or Final Four? They went very deep last year, and they didn't even have Marcus Sasser. They bring Marcus Sasser back, who's I think you need a guy to close games. He closes games,
Yes.
In certain situations, there's things you can't draw up plays for. He's a guy you say, here, and you clear it out, you go 4 low isolation, and you let him go score a basket. And they have that, and having that, and we know they rebound the hell out of the ball. They defend like all hell. They can beat you a multitude of ways. And them running in and beating Bama, I think, was one of the first, people were like, okay, this team is or losing to Bama. I'm sorry, but then they came back and beat Virginia at Virginia, and people were like, okay, starting to take notice here of how good Houston is if they hadn't already.
Yeah, they're real good. They rank in the top 8 in both adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency according to KenPom. KenPom has number 2 overall. Haslam has them at number 1, and my man Evan Mai has them at number 1 as well. I think that they are the team to beat right now going in. A team that could take them down would be a team that actually just bet today at 20-1. I think their odds are going to keep getting lower and lower, and that's a team that's won it and has been there before with veteran guard play and a coach that's been there and done it before, and that's the Virginia Cavaliers. I think people are kind of sleeping on them right now. They're one of the most experienced team in college basketball. You've got guards that have won a national championship at Virginia. You got a coach that's done it before, and more importantly, you got a coach that's lost early, humiliating, and then went back the next year and won it. That's something that these guys aren't going to forget. I think they're going to start, they got a tough game right now in Syracuse tonight. We'll see how they handle that. They got a Duke game coming up that I'm going to be watching. They got not a hard schedule to close out the regular season, but enough games that's going to test them, with the way their schedule lines up. I like Virginia at 20-1. I just bet them. I don't think you're going to get a better number the rest of the season.
That's a great pick there. I like Virginia with the experience. They bring back Kihei Clark. They bring in the transfer from Ohio, Vanderplas. Very nice. You get a stretch 4, comes off the bench. He's about 6'8", 6'9", rebounds it well, shoots it very well. I think he's almost 40, what is he at? Well, he's not shooting very well this year, but typically he's in the high 30% range from 3-point range, has the ability to knock down shots. And we know they defend at a high level. They can defend at a high level, and they like to play that slow down pace. Now, do they speed up a little bit? Yeah, they're able to. They would rather not quite to the degree of a Houston Cougars team, but defensively, obviously, one of the best in the business here. There was a lot of rumors going around a little bit with Tony Bennett, wondering if they were going to try to drag him out of Virginia and try to get him down to Texas. I don't think that that's his nature. I'm not sure that that's more or less like his style. You know, I thought that it was a match made in heaven with Texas and Shaka Smart, and it didn't work out for him there either. You know, I thought he was the guy that had the passion and fire to be able to withstand what's going on in Texas, because they want to win now and they want to win in everything, and they're willing to spend any amount of money. But I just don't think that fits the bill for Tony Bennett at all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I mean, you look at Tony Bennett, his history at Virginia. Virginia wanted to give him a raise, and he turned around and gave the money all to his assistant coaches. That's just not the type of guy Tony Bennett is. I think he's going to stay there for a while. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think what he has going on in Virginia is something that he's is happy with and proud of.
Yeah,
I just lost my train of thought, but
it happens.
I like watching them, and sometimes people don't like watching that slow, grinded out type of play. But I mean, that's their identity. They're going to make you play their style of basketball, and if you beat them, you're going to beat them playing the way that Virginia wants to play. Period.
Right. Yeah, another team that I like that's on my radar. I was really high on them starting the year, and then they kind of faltered, and now they're kind of making their way back now. Is Creighton Blue Jays. I really like Creighton. They went deep last year with a ton of injuries. They bring everybody back. They add the transfer in from San Diego State. What's his name there? Baylor Scheermeyer, I believe it is. Great player there. Can really shoot it, stretch the floor. But really, we saw with the big going down, Kalkbrenner goes down, and they struggled. So he's really the anchor to that team. Big 7-footer, could shoot it, can rebound it. Obviously, the anchor in their defense. They're a team I'd watch out for come tournament time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at their schedule here. I mean, they've got wins over Arizona and Arkansas, Texas Tech, three very good basketball teams and three different basketball teams and how they're made up. Then they went through and pretty much cruised to the Big East up to date. I mean, they've got one loss there, I think, in conference play against two losses. Marquette, good basketball team on the road. And then UConn, whenever UConn still figure out how to win a basketball game. 2023 has not been kind of the UConn Huskies. Should they turn it around and play like it was in November, they're going to be tough as well. But Creighton, I think, is building themselves a very nice resume. They're getting hot at the right time. We'll see how they can roll it in through February and March, because Big East play is no joke.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen the emergence of Xavier now with Sean Miller coming back into the helm. And they've had some tough losses. That loss to UConn was tough. Loss to Xavier was tough. They lost to Marquette. Marquette is scoring the piss out of the ball right now. I'm not sure that's something that they can sustain, honestly. But very good basketball team there in Marquette. But yeah, Creighton, to me, Blue Jays, very well coached with Greg McDermott there, been there for quite some time, and they're playing great basketball. And when you have the ability to bring back guys where they had the who was it? Nimhard went out, so then Trey Alexander was running the show last year. He got valuable tournament experience. Nimhard is going to get valuable tournament experience, and all these guys come back, and that matters come tournament time. It matters who's been there before, who's done it before, and the style of play, which you mentioned before. They beat Arkansas, and this is before they had the injuries that they have now. Brazil played in that game, and that's a game that they won. They come back and play Arizona to a 2-point game. They go and play Texas to a 5-point game. They go and play Baylor to a 3-point game. So they've played about as tough a schedule as you can get for teams that don't have a lot of depth, which is one of the things that really concerns me with this team. They don't have a lot of depth. They don't play a lot of guys. They're going to keep about a 6-man rotation, but definitely Creighton is a team that I would keep my eye on.
Yeah, I think a team that can knock them out in the tournament time is just a team that likes to bang it out down low. You get Creighton in foul trouble, and you get bringing in guys in rotations that they're not accustomed to. Not that they're not deep and talented, but like you said, they run a short rotation. You start bringing in guys that really haven't been playing as many minutes. Maybe they bring some guys in come February and March and start adding some minutes to their rotation and just kind of see where they're at, because if they do get in foul trouble, they can definitely be in trouble. I think another team kind of like that where they don't play a lot of guys, veteran team is one of my favorite teams to watch right now out in the West Coast Conference is St. Mary's. One thing that scares me is yes, they're very veteran. They're a veteran team, but they don't have that tournament pedigree experience because they've just for so many years they've been kind of treated as that black sheep of the conference, and they can't get past Gonzaga. This year, they're not going to have that problem. It doesn't matter what they do the rest of the way. They're in the tournament now. I don't see how they don't make it. So they don't have the tournament experience. We'll have to see what kind of seed and matchups they get, but they're going to be a tough out for somebody.
Yeah, St. Mary's is very
A
tough.
lot of teams.
Yeah, we've seen them go on and basically have an away game against Houston. That was a 5-point game in that matchup. They got a tough loss to New Mexico, who's a very good team as well. Be on the lookout for them. But as it stands right now, they have the third longest win streak in the country at 10, 19-4. They've got quality win against San Diego State, who we've seen very veteran-laden team as well, very good defensive team as well. That conference is actually very good this year. Not a lot of people talking about that West Coast Conference, but there's a possibility they could probably get some teams in there. Come conference time. We know Gonzaga is going to get in, and we know that St. Mary's is going to get in. But now BYU has been playing some solid basketball, not to be overshadowed at all. Playing very solid. San Diego's been playing solid as well. So St. Mary's definitely a team that to keep an eye out for. I did have BYU. That was my lone win there Saturday against St. Mary's plus the 6.5. But it's a very tough place when you're rolling to Provost. It's not an easy place to get a win. We saw that they gave Gonzaga everything that they could handle there in that game. As they lost that by I think 1 point. It came down to the very end, but they led that game almost the entire way.
Yeah, lost at 57-56. I also bet the Cougs there in that spot. I thought it was a good spot for them. But yeah, I would be excited if they sent 3 teams. I think it'd be good for basketball.
I agree. Conference is playing very well. I like what San Francisco is doing there as well. There's about 3 or 4 teams there that I'd be willing to put my money on, depending on who they play. Loyola Marymount hasn't been playing bad either. A lot of solid teams there in the West Coast Conference. But speaking of television, man, we're about to wrap things up here. Is there anything that you've been watching that the people want to know about? I know what I got in mind, but I'm going to let you take the lead.
Not really. I've kind of bounced around with a bunch of different shows right now. We probably got like 8. Me and the wife have about 8 we're watching right now that we can't really dial in or just binge anything. But we have been watching a couple movies as of late. I watched Equalizer and Equalizer 2 last week. I had never seen the second one. It was really good. But we watched a movie on Netflix, and it's also on Amazon Prime called Solace. It's got Colin Farrell and Anthony Hopkins in it. It's about FBI agents that are trying to catch a serial killer. Very good flick. I don't want to give away too much, but Anthony Hopkins is kind of brought back on the scene by Colin Farrell. And Anthony Hopkins is, I'll just say he's a special individual with a certain ability. And it's a really good flick. I would say it's probably one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time.
That's a tall statement to make. That's a tall statement to make there. Yeah, personally, we don't watch a ton of movies. We get into a little bit here and there. We're big on we like the true crime. I like documentaries. That's up my alley. I've watched almost every documentary there is to watch on Netflix. I'm into that. Obviously love the conspiracy theories. You and I talk about that stuff all the time. But right now, a big one that I'm into, if you guys have HBO Max, is The Last of Us. If you're a PlayStation, you're a PlayStation guy or girl, you're a gamer, Last of Us was like the game of the year, and then Last of Us 2 was the game of the year as well. Loved it. One of the few games that I played like end to end and then like up the difficulty, played it again, and like I played multiple times. Great game. They've taken the game, they turned it into a TV show. Awesome show. Even my wife's watching it. So a lot of people that watch The Walking Dead, you'll really like The Last of Us. Very similar type thing with like a fungus outbreak and people are trying to survive, so that's the very, very general premise of it all, but great show. I'm loving it. A new episode came on last night, but I was like falling asleep watching it. Not because of the show, just because it was a long day for me yesterday. But
yeah, you had an emotional day yesterday.
Yeah. After you celebrate the Eagles, man, and you're juiced up and rowdy, you do what I call C and B, which is crash and burn. So I I was sitting on the couch in my zone and just started nodding off, as I was trying to spend a little time with the wife.
Yeah. You had a great Sunday and a good one coming up. I've got plenty of Sundays to be excited for as we're rolling into one of my favorite sports, NASCAR, coming up. We got the Clash this weekend. I'm dialed in. I don't know if a lot of people know, but I had a heck of a season last year in NASCAR. Probably one for the books, but hoping to repeat it this year, maybe even do a little bit better. So if you're not into it, you can get into it. All you got to do is just hit me up over at defeatthebook.com. I'll give you the plays. You don't even have to watch the race. We'll just stack paper. I love NASCAR. I can't wait.
You take it from me. I'm not one to just speak about things to speak about things. I only speak the truth. That is just what I do, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. It's going to come from my mouth. We went through COVID. No sports were on. NASCAR was on, and it was, hey, Bryce. Bryce says, "You in the NASCAR?" And I'm like, not really. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm like, not really, man. And he's like, "Oh, you should check it out. Try this." And I'm putting stuff. I'm like, man, this guy's pretty good. He's pretty good. So I definitely stacked some chips up, and you were at one point, I believe, until the end, he was like almost 50% race winners. Absolutely tremendous. But he has NASCAR coming up. We've had tremendous basketball season. We're over almost 35 units in college basketball, plus 16 units in the month of January. We're having a great year. Bryce has big things coming. I have big things coming. This is just the beginning of the podcast, guys. We're going to wrap things up here. It's Derek Dimes, your guy, Bryce, defeatthebook.com. Let us help you beat the odds, guys. Best of luck if you decide to tell anything that we put out. And if you don't, the joke's on you. Have a great night.